All right. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Let's get going. There we go. There we go. All right. We are up and going, and everything is looking good so far. Um, hey, Ole, welcome to the stream. And there's a lot of people I need to say hi to. Michael joined early. Welcome to the stream, Michael. It's good to see you. 123, the true one, also said hello, and hello to you also. That's a lot of alsos. it's a it's a cold, wet, rainy day in Utah today. So perfect day to be inside in a warm house writing some code. Um, so Akberry, I'm gonna say Akberry. Correct me if I'm wrong. Akberry? Akberry? I don't know. You correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm saying it right. But hey, happy morning to you also, and thank you for joining in the evening. And Ole, you were the last one to say hello, so welcome everybody. Very happy to have everybody here. And is there any housekeeping? Not right now. I mean, the only holidays coming up in like the U.S. is Halloween, but I'm gonna stream regardless of Halloween. One thing to be aware of is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I won't be streaming. That's about a month from now. Um, so I'm not sure what we're doing, but Thanksgiving's a big family holiday, and so I'll be streaming the Akbe Akb. Okay, Akb, AKB. Oh, AKB here. Oh, AKB here. Okay. I wasn't sure. It's always hard to it's always difficult to know, you know, how somebody's name is pronounced. So thank you for correcting me there. I'll just call you AKB if that's okay. If you want me to say the full one, let me know. Um, anyway, yeah, Thanksgiving is the only thing coming up. Nothing really big happened this week. Yeah. So we're taking a look at our signal forms. And one thing that I've been doing a bit of lately is reviewing the code reviews from the previous stream based on feedback from Gemini Code Assist. Our star input control, we're using the name equals I, and the star input is rightly calling us out that hey, this doesn't really work for radio inputs. Our control works. We're getting the appropriate colors and the appropriate um, reaction to the various inputs and things like that. So we know it works. Oh, last week you joined and I called you correct. As you can see from the gray hair, I'm getting old and my memory is terrible. That's gonna be my excuse for the day. So last week I called you the correct name. Oh, that's awesome. Um, yeah, I apparently my brain was better at parsing names last week. Um, anyways, I that's hilarious. Anyway, it does call us out correctly that this isn't really a radio button group because each so the way these stars work is they're each one radio input. And it's not working properly. So let's try naming it a full radio group and see what happens. Oh, the only thing I haven't started is WebStorm that needs an update. So we'll update WebStorm really quick, and then drop into that. and get that fixed. While that's going on, let's take a look. I think I've got the Angular changelog up here. And I was looking at the 21 next 9, and there's an interesting breaking change here. That IE and non-Chromium Edge are not supported anymore. And that is that's a long time coming. So Zone.js no longer supports IE or non-Chromium Edge. I forgot that when Edge was originally released, it was its own parsing engine, and then they switched over to a Chromium-based version because they just couldn't take over. They couldn't take over market share from Chrome. I don't even know if they're taking over market share from Chrome right now, but this is important. Getting rid of non-standard browsers is really, really big. I mean, IE, I don't even know the last time IE was updated. I mean, it's been years. So that was a big change that went on there. Let's see if we're done here. Nope, we're still configuring WebStorm. That's fine. Other things inside of here that were interesting. Missing structural directive diagnostic produces false negatives is interesting. They made the simple changes generic. I love that simple changes is now generic. Because simple changes came in as a type any, and I use type guards to help control that, but that's a big one. The animating leave calls, things like that. This one's interesting. Binding invalid input to custom controls. Never use IE in my life. So here's the thing. I've been doing web development for a very long time. Long enough that I remember when what we call what we just call web applications, Microsoft called dynamic HTML. So back in the IE5, IE6 days, Microsoft ruled the world back in IE5 and IE6, and nobody really took over. And then Firefox came along and kind of broke up their monopoly with just a superior browser, and then Chrome came along. Yeah, event handlers are now typed in recent. Yeah, exactly, Michael. The event handlers are now typed, which is huge. So a lot of this stuff that we used to do, you no longer have to use type guards and things like that. You can start doing generics, which should make your code better. You may want to use type guards, but if you're using signal forms and Zod to do your schema validations, or even just Angular's built-in schema validation, your data collection is going to be so much better anyway. No offense, I'm not that old. Well, that's good. I think IE5 ruled the world back in 98 or 99. So, I mean, that's like 26 years ago. I was pretty young back then. I was like 18 or 19 back then. So it's been a while. That's okay. Not everybody can be as wise as I am. It takes age to get here. Anyway, this should be done. Really, really, WebStorm. You're gonna keep doing that? Oh, okay. Now I complain. It stops. It finishes. You just got to complain a little bit and things finish. All right. So immediately it pulls up what we care about. because this is what we were working on last. We're oh, this is interesting. We're gonna give it just a name of star input. There there's some interesting stuff here that we should probably think about. Um, um, we should fix our aria here so as people are reading that it makes more sense. But so right now, if we just have our name be star input, that means that every star input on the page is going to have the same name. I don't like that. Um, so we're going to have a name, and this is going to be an input string, but we're going to default to, we need to bring in the input. So it's star input, but we're giving it a name, and here what we want to do is we could do math.floor, math.random, and we'll do times 10,000 here. And now it's going to complain about this, but we can easily make this a string by just adding a string to it. So basically what we're doing here is we're taking a random number, we're actually multiplying by 100,000. So we can add our little separators here to make it easier to see. And we're adding quotes to it. The downside to this is just our default value for our name. The downside to this is that there is a possibility of collisions, right? So the random number generator isn't guaranteed to generate unique items across, however many star inputs we have on the page. However, with 100,000, the likelihood of it generating, 2 or 3, collisions within an input of maybe, 10 to 100 is, at 100, I think it's like 1 in 1,000. So it's small enough that we don't need to worry about it too much. At 10, it's 1 in 10,000. It's low likelihood, but this isn't really here to guarantee that. It's just to give us a default value. So now we can do star input dash and here name. And the reason we're doing it this way is now in our to-do TS, on our star input, projected input has some issues with it, but it works. Where's our star input? So one thing we could do here is we could add our name, equals task rating. And so when we save this, now if we give our form unique stuff, right? Now we can see if we inspect this. Oh, that's not a good name. Um, let's go back here. We need to use we need to use the signal. So now if we go and we inspect, we can see that our star input has this, and then our radio buttons here have oh, there's a collision going on here. But you know what? I'm okay with that. That's actually going to guarantee that's going to guarantee a unique value across these. So we're getting star input and then task importance, task importance, task importance. That means this doesn't really even matter. We can just give it an empty string here. So we can give it an empty string, and the name here doesn't matter at this point. In the future, something may change and we may have to do something with it. But for right now, we can see, hey, if we inspect this, we're going to get a star input, and then the name is the ng form 0 task importance. And I'm okay with that. We can see it still works. Everything still works as expected. The coloring, all of that works. But what we've done is we've followed, we fixed the, this name used to be 1 and then the other one was 2 and 3. We've now created unique inputs for the task group or for the radio button group. But the other thing we've done is because Angular is giving us this ng form 0 task importance, that's going to be unique across everything. So we're good with that too. So that solves the first issue. And let's go ahead and commit this. So we're going to stage this. And I'm just using AI to write my commit message. And there we go. So let's go take a look at the next take a look at the next thing. So that fixes up our this issue. The next issue it brought up high priority. There are 2 issues here. So we've got redundant controls. I have 2 controls using the same value. This is on purpose. It's referring to this control and this control are being bound to the same value. Really, it's just to show that we can do a 0, right? We can have 2 controls doing controlling the same values, and it's to demonstrate that we can do zeros and stuff like that. I'm okay with that. What is the other issue it's pointing out? So it's saying it's missing the min and max property. This is because it doesn't understand that that Angular is automatically binding these for us. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? It looks like I don't have. I don't have a mod here today, do I? Oh, Michael's here. Oh well. Anyway, it is working because we can go and look at our to-do model, and we experimented with this quite a bit last time. We can say, hey, let's make the max value for this 9 stars. And this is just an example, so we aren't going to mess with all of the messages and stuff. But in making that 9 stars, we can see that, hey, we're getting 9 stars. and it's working appropriately. It's setting the min and max value here appropriately between 0 and 9. So we can see that it is working. It's just that Gemini doesn't understand that Angular is, with the signal forms, because they're experimental, is automatically doing that min and max binding for us. So we're good with that. So we can safely ignore those two comments. But they were good call outs. Right? Usually you don't want redundant controls, and usually if you're missing some sort of min and max, that's not a good idea. This was a good one to call out. So there are a couple of things here. So it's saying model required. Because it implements form value control, it should expect this value to be provided by the form via the field binding. Using model 0 to give it a default value that might conflict with the form state. And this is interesting. Let's try implementing this, because in the past we've had problems with this. So let's go back to our input. And here, instead of doing that, we do model required, which means that we pull out the 0. We no longer need it. And let's go take a look. Okay, so that did compile. In the past, we were having problems with the model.required working. So if this is working now, then I'm going to, nope. So the input value must be specified. So it's still not recognizing that the value is actually bound to the field, and that's a TypeScript parser issue. So while this is technically true, and what it is saying here is absolutely totally true, right? We should be marking it as required. And then the form value control expects it to be connected through the field binding. That's totally true. And using model 0 gives it a default value that might conflict with the form state. Absolutely true also. One of these days there will be a YouTube ViewBot ad, and Ole and I will be on it. I can't wait for that ViewBot ad to see you and Ole on it. That'll be awesome. Oh, I completely messed up. Michael's talking about he's gonna be on it, blocking it and stuff. Here's the thing. If I was a legit streamer, right? And I needed viewers and stuff like that, those view bots may actually make sense, right? A lot of people build their audience early so that they hit the algorithm and all that stuff early and things like that. The reality is, if I went and I paid for views, Angular is so niche that if I went to like 10,000 views, it'd be really, really weird. I'd never be able to keep that, even if the algorithm picked me up and stuff, right? I would never be able to maintain that. It's just throwing money away. But yeah, Ole is you're a YouTube. Oh, you guys are both YouTube. You guys can't ban the ones that come through on Twitch. So yeah, me purchasing views, that, like, you guys can rest assured that the view counts that you're seeing are legit, because me purchasing views is just throwing away money. There's no reason for me to do it. There never will be. I guess if one day something crazy happens and Angular becomes as big as React, then there might be enough of a pool of people who want to watch me stream Angular. um, that maybe, but even then, I think organically it would grow just fine. Um, I don't know. It's just hilarious to me that people come into a programming stream and they're like, "Hey, buy views." Okay, why? Well, hey, you're not supposed to say that, Ole. Come on, man. And then everybody's gonna want me to pay them to watch. Um. Anyway, so the other thing that they called out, and this is absolutely true, min and max should be defined with inputs instead of models. We don't want two-way bindings on our inputs to this. So I've got these set up with model right now. That's the wrong call. These should definitely be input. Um, because we want these to be inputs from the bindings. We don't want them to be a two-way binding. And so that was a very good call out. Let's go ahead and commit this. Okay, so that's another fix, and I love that Gemini is giving us good stuff. So this one says the range generator includes logic that forces the minimum value to be at least 1. This prevents a 0-star option from being rendered. This is totally true. But we don't want a 0-star option to be rendered. Like, what is a 0-star option? How do you render that? It would draw a star, but that star is then a 1-star option. So this is important. This is inconsistent with task importance validation, which allows a minimum value of 0. This means the model can be in a state that the user cannot select through the UI component. Please consider if a 0 option should be available or if there should be another mechanism to reset the rating to 0. And this is a good call out. So one thing we could do is right after this 4, we could add button type equals button, and for here, let's is there a no? Is there a clear? Oh, what is the circle with a slash? Let's try circle. Ban. Cross. We'll do this one. This one works right now. So there we go. Type equals button. We need a class of button, and we're gonna do button dash small for right now. And here we're also gonna add a click handler. And our click handler is, we're gonna call clear clear rating. And so we need to add this down in our code down here. We can just do protected clear rating. And this is going to be, we don't need void, we can let it infer that. And so now we can just say this dot update value to 0, that works fine. So now if we go take a look at our form, we've now got this button, and so now if we set a 3 rating, now it's a 0. So we've got this button to clear it, but this is an ugly button. Man, let's fix up this button. Yeah, let's go take a look at our Daisy stuff, and let's get a better button. That is just a hideous button. So Daisy button. So this is just a regular button, a button extra small. And I, so you guys could probably hear me pronouncing the in button. It's me being self-conscious of the Utah accent. So in Utah, we don't say mountain, we say mountain. I'm saying button. Um, and maybe that's, maybe that's an American thing too. We don't, there's a lot of times when we're speaking quickly that we don't enunciate our consonants. Um, but in Utah, we have we've got unique pronunciation. So there's a couple of things. So I lived in a city that was spelled it was spelled like that. No, no, it had this. No, Tuli. I think that's how it's pronounced. That's how it's spelled. That's Tooele. Um, uh, the other thing is there's a city in Utah that's spelled like this, right? Outside of Utah, everybody would pronounce this city Hurricane. If you come to Utah and you call this city Hurricane, we immediately know you're not from Utah because the city is called Hurricane. It's like the most Murica thing to say, Hurricane. Um, so if you're in Utah and you're heading to Hurricane, make sure you tell people you're going to Hurricane. Because if you say anything else, we know you're from outside of Utah, and that's how we know to scam you. I'm just joking about the scamming, but it's just it's Utah pronunciation. Utah pronunciation. Mountain, Hurricane, Twilla. Um, so yeah. So we want an extra small button. Okay, it's button dash XS. Let's make sure we fix this up. Button dash XS. So let's take a look at our button now. With our button dash XS. Still not great. I don't know why my button. So if I inspect this, so font size, we can see we've got a button and a button dash XS. And this is where Daisy and Tailwind can be a little bit difficult. So here's our button XS, and we can see that like our font size modifier is changing that to be the appropriate size. We're changing the button there. So we've got our animations on our button. If we inspect this one, this is a button dash primary. Let's go back to our browser, and So here we've just got a button and a button dash XS. But for whatever reason, we're getting a background on our buttons, and I'm not sure where that background is coming from. Let's see what's adding that background to our button. So it's a class button. Let's inspect this. So there's nothing there. We've got our animation going on. Our height, width, our border radius. This is where our background color. Oh. What is adding that background color? So it's in the utilities. It's coming from a Daisy UI component. Dot rating where star. What do I have here? Oh, I'm inside of the rating class. That's what's causing the problem. Okay. So let's move this button. You guys can still hear me, right? I'm still so self-conscious about saying button. But anyway, now if we go take a look, hey, we are there, but now we're on our own level and we don't want that. But our button looks a lot better. We want this to appear on the same level here. So if we change this from a class block to a flex, and a flex column, then it should pull everything up onto the same level. No, it's flex row, not flex column. It is not like the button's huge, but we definitely don't want that. So let's go back to our code. Instead of flex column, let's go flex row. Is that not? There we go. It just hadn't recompiled. With the flex row, our button shows up. The last thing I want to do is let's make this a ghost button. And so if we do button dash ghost, then what that's going to do for us is we don't get the outline. So now when we hover, we get, and it might be difficult to see this on YouTube and Twitch based on the compression. So let's go hover BG dash let's see. Let's see what that does for us. Ooh, that's hideous, right? But it at least gives you the idea of the subtle hover that we've got. I don't want that. So we're gonna get rid of that hover. Well, actually, we could. Oh, what is the? I just wanted to share my success story. I'm just seeing that. If we go look at Tailwind, and we take a look at colors, yeah, working with colors. There's a way to give opacity. It's the slash. I always forget that. So if we do like a slash 45, maybe. Um, let's go a little bit lighter than that. Let's go with like a slash 25, maybe. A little more subtle than that. Let's go with like a 15. That was really weird. Oh, that's a little bit less offensive. Let's just try slash 5. There we go. So now we've got a slight pink when we hover that gives us an idea that, hey, this is clickable. And hopefully that shows up. Let's go a little bit darker than that, just to make it visible for for people who are well, for everybody, right? Because it's streaming, and I'm looking over. Let's see, does that? Yeah, it shows up. Okay. There we go. So we've got just like this slight hover effect. The only other thing that I might do, there we go. Is up here where we added. Actually, it's down here where we added the flex and the flex row. We do a gap of 1. And really, we could even do like a gap of X and 1, right? Well, it doesn't matter. There's only going to be 1 row. So there's our gap of 1. And the only reason for that is that it gives us just a slight separation from this last star for our button. So there we go. So now we've got a way to clear our input. We don't necessarily need this input. Right now, this input is to demonstrate that we're binding 2 things to the same form control. When we can actually get rid of that. I don't know. Maybe we'll leave it. I haven't decided yet. This isn't an actual application. In an actual application, I would for sure not have these 2 controls. These 2 controls are here largely to allow everybody to see different things, right? So one of these controls is projected. The other one is a direct control. The other, this button and this was originally bound to the same thing. But we've since changed it. So I don't know. Anyway, let's commit this. So our changes are actually relatively small. Yep. So that's a good one too, and we'll go ahead and push this. And let's take a look at. So we handled the idea of the model, um, what did we do? The min and the max properties, the field binding. Oh, the range generator. This is it. This prevents the 0 star operate, right? But this is intentional. We did just add an ability to allow a 0 star rating. Oh, we've got a problem here. I just realized there is a problem. Our X button, if we set a minimum value of oh, that's interesting. So if we set a minimum value of, well, right now our minimum value is 1, but if we go to our input here, or to our to-do model, and let's say we set our minimum value to be like, you know, we're going to game the system and we don't want anybody to rate us lower than a 3. Well, we don't want a task importance lower than a 3, right? So now if we go take a look at our application, oh, we've only got 3 stars. So we've just exposed a couple of issues, but if I click this, notice that now we get minimum task importance. Well, it's saying 0, right? But the minimum value should be 3. And so we need to fix a couple of things. So the first thing we do is, this is always going to be a 1. We don't need this because we always want to draw 1 to the maximum number. The other thing we want to do is say here that when we update this value, it has to be this dot min. And that's going to fix some issues that we've got with our control. So now we can't go below a 3 star rating, but when we reset it, it's always going to reset to the minimum value allowed. And so that's an important thing here. Where this would come into play is, you know, maybe 3 is a joke, but you know, maybe our task importance is a 1 to 5 scale, but we want everything to start out as a medium priority task. So it's a 3, but we could easily do a 1 or a 5. But when we click this, we want it to reset to, you know, the lowest possible value. So there was an issue going on there. Let's go clean this up. And this is the importance of making sure that we test, you know, we test our edge cases and things like that. We should be writing tests for this, and this is one thing that I definitely want to get into, is writing some tests. But now we can see, hey, we're going to set to the appropriate value. So now it's going to draw the appropriate number of stars. And if I was thinking last week when I wrote this generator, I wouldn't have used min at all. But I was too focused on the min and the max inputs and not focused enough on you know, what this meant. we really want to draw 1 to the maximum number of inputs. One thing we should do is we should say, hey, const max equals this dot max. If it exists, then it's this dot max. Otherwise, we're going to draw at least 1 star. So there we go. And we can test this by setting our max value to a 0 also. Oh, interesting. Oh, you create the variable, but you don't use it. And then you wonder, wait, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't use the variable. So there we go. So now we've got at least a 1 star. But, you know, by selecting a 1 star, it's too big. So we're going to get errors for that. But we're always going to draw at least 1 star if we use this. So there we go. And that fixes up this control. So the next thing to take a look at, and do I have an SignalStore anywhere? That's odd. I forget what the SignalStore symbol looks like. It's this one right here. So we're going to get rid of our testing stuff here. Reset the canvas. And let's take a look at kind of what we want our input to look like. What I'm thinking is we'll get our to-do list here. And this is our to-do list. And we're going to use tan stack table. I don't really like that weird brown color it uses. Is that my issue that I've been using? It is. So it's already set to dark mode, and I had the auto dark mode there. The other thing we're gonna do is this will be like our edit form. I'm trying to decide how I want it to be. I think what we want it to be like is this. So we've got our 10 stack table with our to-do list. And then down here, you know, these are our inputs. And so when we select something up here, down here, it will be editable. And so that's kind of the goal of this to-do list. We're going to have a couple of extra columns. We're probably going to add a due date and a completed date, and things like that to make it a little bit easier to work with. Or to give, not easier to work with, but make it more fully fledged, but also give us something interesting to do with our tan stack. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get a data model that supports this. So let's do that, and then we'll create this control. And this control will eventually use a tan stack table. But for right now, we're just going to get something going, and we're going to incrementally make this better. So let's do that. The first thing for right now, where do we want to start? Let's start. Let's start with another model. And this will be our to-do list. So let's go ahead and create a new TypeScript file. And this will be our to-do list model. And our to-do list model is going to follow the to-do model. We're going to use Zod also for our to-do list. But it is going to be an array of to-do models. So here we can say, hey, we want a, we could say const to-do list, and we're going to follow the same naming convention we used here in our to-do model. So in our to-do model, we call this our parser. So this will be our to-do list parser. Equals, and here we want a z.array of to-do parser. Boom. So now we need to import these. So we'll bring in z from Zod, and we'll bring in to-do parser from our parser. And now we can see that, hey, this is an array of Zod objects. And we want to be able to export this. And then the last thing we want to do is export type to-do list is we infer that, and we can see here when we hover over to-do list, it's a to-do list parser. And we can test this out by going const test of type to-do list equals, and we'll create an array. And so this works, right? If we go ABC, it's going to say type string is not assignable to type, array of this. Great. So if we go array 1, 2, 3, 4, we can also see that, hey, 1 is not assignable to this object. Perfect. So now if we come in here and we create an object, and our object has done false name this, we're missing a few things. We need task importance. And this is obviously a 5. What else are we missing here? So we've got done, we've got ID. Name, we need a description and a random number. So our description is learn signal forms on stream. And our random number, you know what, we're going to get rid of random number. We're going to go with 42. And so there we go. So now we've got a to-do list. This is important because here our to-do factory has a couple of things in it, right? So we're going to give this task ID 1. We're going to give this, actually, What we want to do is we want to pass in a few things and parse them out. And actually, we'll just say these are our options. And our options are going to be a partial to-do model, and it'll be empty. So now we can say, hey, this is opt dot done or false. And I don't like double question marks. I actually prefer this. This means that, so double question marks is a truthy operator. This is a nullish operator, meaning that if we get nothing, then we get false. And we'll do the same here. Ops name, ops.id. And here we can say ops.description. Here we can say ops.random number. And here we can say ops.task importance. We're going to make the default task importance be a 3. And I mean, we could do this a couple of ways. One other way we could do this is, well, it doesn't work. So we can clean this up a bit. We could say, hey, const, and we can say done name ID description random number task importance equals and then we can do opt comma default values. And so now we need to create default values. So here we can say const default values, and we want to make sure that this is a to-do model, equals this. And so now we can say done is false, learn signal forms, ID is 0, yep, random number, yep. So there we go. There's our default values. So now we've parsed all of these out. Now what we can do is we can just do this. And the reason I'm doing it the long way is because my muscle memory for where the end key is doesn't work for this keyboard. So now what we've done is our factory has the ability to create to do models, right? But we don't have to pass everything to it. Instead, we can just pass in what we care about. And so here with our to-do list, we could actually just do, to do factory. Boom. So we need to import that. And here we could go, our ID is 12, right? Our ID is 1. Our name is, I don't know, learn Angular aria. Our description is, well, our description is because it's, because it's cool, right? And so by doing something like this, now we only have to do what we care about. So all of these other inputs, right? So like the random number and the task importance, we just get, and done, we get for free. So this is going to be our to-do list factory. We're going to export function to-do list factory. And it is going to return a to-do list. And now we can just say that we want that, and then we can return that. We've got our factory. This can be ID number 2. And this can be to do factory, boom. So this can just be our default to do factory. We don't even really care because our to do model already has, what we've been using for our default. So now we've got 2 items in our factory. AKB, instead of spreading the default values, we can also assign default value in the destructuring part. No need to spread 2 objects. That is actually a good point. So yeah, we could do done equals false, right? Name equals learn signal forms, ID equals 0, description equals learn signal forms, right? We could do this. The main reason I'm not doing that is I want this default values object. To me, it's easier to read. There is a downside to this, and that's a good call out, AKB. So by doing the assignment here, we aren't doing 2 spreads. By doing 2 spreads, the other thing we would do is once we did that, then we could destructure to ops, right? So we aren't having to iterate over all the properties on the object, right? So if we do this where we do 2 spreads, we iterate on every project. Let's learn to speak, right? We iterate over every property on options if we do the 2 spreads, right? So this is an important thing to understand about spreading, right? So with this, we iterate over every property on options. Well, kind of the way to think about it, we iterate over every property on default values. So there's 6 properties. Then we turn around and we iterate over every property on options. So there could be 6 properties here. And we assign the new values. That's 12 operations to create one to-do factory, right? One to-do model from our factory. If I had more than 6 properties, if I was like at 10 or 20 properties, that is a good call out. And these are the trade-offs that we're making. The downside to setting the default values here is it becomes a little bit less readable. Um, and by its, you know, on its own, destructuring um, is a little bit less readable. I don't know. You know what? I'm talking myself into what you just said. Um, so we're going to go with default values. We're going to save um, we're going to save a couple of operations, especially so we don't have to make this so we don't have to do this refactor in the future um, once we've added more properties. And task importance equals 3. I mean, there are like default values itself gives us some interesting things, and what we could do here is we could do default values dot whatever. Oops. And you might be tempted to put your default values in here. The problem with that is that if somebody provides a partial value that doesn't include the value that you provided here, you're not going to get it. It doesn't automatically, do an object.assign or whatever. This is just the default value that we're going to get if we don't provide anything. So we're just going to default to nothing for our partial. And then we're going to provide default values ourselves. And we're going to destructure whatever comes in on options. And it's a good call out, AKB, and one that this is why when you code when you code as a solo dev, it's easy to get stuck in bad patterns. And what do I mean by that? Well, there wasn't anything wrong with what I was doing before. And I could actually make good arguments for what I was doing before. Having somebody else come in and say, hey, you could do this, gets your brain out of those shortcuts that you're used to taking. So you take these shortcuts, and everybody's brain does it. Just over time, we learn to take these shortcuts. They turn into habits or other things like that. But it's your brain saving processing power and saving energy. And so the shortcut I took was the double spread. Having AKB point out, hey, the double spread isn't necessarily the best idea. And then me thinking through that was healthy for this code base. And this is why I suggest, adding even an AI code reviewer, having friends take a look at your code. If you're really, really brave, code on stream. Like, you guys are amazing. You guys are very, 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 very supportive. Although I haven't done anything stupid enough to really, get somebody so angry that they're like, "Oh, you're an idiot." Blah 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 blah. I imagine one day I'm going to do something so frustratingly stupid that somebody's just going to go off. And I'd like to think that I'm just going to be like, yeah, they needed to vent. I'm frustrating them. This is their time along with my time, right? And just let them vent. But we'll see how I handle it when somebody decides to, like, you're an idiot. You don't you shouldn't be coding. Blah 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 blah. Who knows, right? I've already dispatched the troll army to bog your streaming down. Johanderson was V1. Johanderson is amazing. If you keep sending trolls like Johanderson, we're gonna be good. the nerd snipers are the ones that are the dangerous ones for me. They just pull me off topic, and I don't even know if they're really that dangerous. Um, yeah, let's get one more to do factory. And one thing that I do want to call out is, a lot of times you'll see people, instead of creating factories like this. So if we take a look at the way the code looked before, um, so if we go take a look at this code, right? A lot of people will ask me, why do you create a factory? Um, when what you could have done is just created like export const default to-do list and then set it equal to this object, and then people can import it, right? Why do you do a factory? There are a couple of reasons to do a factory. One of the first reasons to do a factory is that when you call a factory, you're going to get a new reference to this object, which means that if somebody tries to mutate the object, I don't care. They can mutate this object to their heart's content, and it's not going to affect anything else that uses the factory, um, in the future or in the past, right? So that's one big thing. It's a piece of safety and peace of mind for me. The other reason that I like factories is if we look at the refactor to where we are today, um, we've gained a big benefit in that we can create our own factory that gives us the ability to just go, hey, I want a to-do list item that has a 3. I want to give it a name, of, explain factories versus const objects, and the description is Jason likes factories for lots of reasons. And then, done, we can set it to true, right? And so we only have to declare what we want, because we spent the time creating this factory. But the other big thing is, say I take random number out. Well, all I need to do, clean up my random numbers here, right? If I was using random number in my to-do list, then I would need to clean that up too. But I'm not using it, so I don't have to do that. So there's that. The other thing is, if I want to add a new function, or a new property, right? Like, created, or create date. Let's be a little bit more here. We can just say z.date, and it's required, z.date non-optional, and please provide a created date, right? And so now we've created our parser. The problem is that down here, oh, this should be picking it up. So we are getting a create date, but down here we can say, hey, create date, and we can just say, we want it to be, date. We can do date.now, right? Or actually, it's just new date. Boom. Oh, and I need an equals here instead of that, which means we could probably even just do date.now. And so down here, we just add our create date. Why is it not picking up? Done, name, description, create date. To do model. Why doesn't it like my create date? Oh, is date now is a number. So I do want a new date. There we go. I have already dispatched. People make mistakes. One should learn to accept people's mistakes. I agree with that, AKB. And I do want to add to that people make mistakes, and learning to accept people's mistakes is learning to accept your own mistakes, and allowing yourself to make mistakes, right? I think a lot of times people are less harsh on the people around them than they are on themselves, and that's often a big tragedy, right? Allow yourself to make mistakes along with other people, and be forgiving. Don't assume malice, right? Um, it, like anything, prove malice before you accept that malice was involved. A lot of times, people are going through struggles that you have no idea what's going on, and understanding that everybody's struggling, whether you can see it or not, um, often allows you to see people in a different light, and give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I agree with that. People make mistakes. Michael Small Dev, are you using mutations from the NGX toolkit? I've been upgrading our mono repo with all the non-upgrade monetization scripts and upgrading some of those scripts on our one-off repo. Once those are both done, I intend to pull in mutations. One of our most senior guys thinks it is a good pattern, but I want to formally talk about pulling them in, as there's some nuance and likely wanted understanding. So we're gonna take a look at NGRX mutations as we get into the NGRX toolkit mutations. We've used that before. We're gonna use it with our SignalStore here. And the reason we want to use mutations, in the past, I've used why can't I? We don't want our SignalStore to allow mutations. We want to force people to treat our SignalStore as being man, my brain is just losing terms right now. We wanted to treat it as being immutable. And so in the past, I've used mutative.js to help with that. We're going to use that, but we're also going to use mutations to guarantee that our SignalStore doesn't mutate. And we've done that with experiments in the past. We're going to take a look at that today, but I agree that there are some interesting things to talk about. And yeah, I hope that one day the SignalStore picks up the mutation stuff for native. I think it will be very natural next step, so we don't have to do tap on chains with SignalStore methods all the time that we want to be RX methods at times. But those lack being able to be observable. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. We'll pull in mutations too. This is a good discussion. And this is the thing that like discussions like this, I think are important um, in today's world. Um, and what do I mean by today's world? Like LLMs, typically I'll say AI, but I'm being very intentional about saying LLMs. LLMs are taking a lot of traditional engineering work and doing it faster than we as engineers ever could. And some of that is good, some of it is bad. Um, Being able to have discussions like what Michael and Ole are having are way more important in today's world than being able to write code. Um, and I think everybody needs the fundamentals of writing code. I think everybody needs the fundamentals of all the stuff we talk about um, to be able to understand if you know even a discussion like we were having here of doing two spreads versus defaults, right? If you grow up on vibe coding, um, the difference may not be as obvious to you. And there are things that are obvious to me because of um, how much time I've been doing this. And I started back in the 80s where 640K was considered a lot. um, I remember the first time I held, they were still called floppies, but they were the 3.5 inch instead of the 5 1/4. So they had hard plastic around them, and they could hold 1.44 megabytes. I still remember having one of my computer science teachers handing me a 1.44 megabyte 3.5 inch floppy saying, "This is the only storage you'll ever need. You'll never be able to fill this." Right? Within a few years, we had programs that were like 30 and 40 of those floppies to be able to install them to your hard disk. Um, and so, understanding like operation optimization and things like that are things that are drilled into my brain. They're not things that you're going to learn unless you experience them, and probably not going to learn vibe coding. You're probably going to learn things like that once you get deeper into actual engineering and you start taking your vibe coding and improving it. Um, so that those are the kinds of things. So you tried it on your pet project and feel like it's pretty good. I definitely want to take a look at mutations. Let's go take a look at that library. We've got about a half hour, and we're to the point where we want to build our SignalStore. So we've built our to-do list model. We've built the factory that's going to build our model for us. And again, we did a factory because we may want to be able to pass in, I don't know. This one is less important to be a factory. The main reason that I do factories here is I don't want mutations to happen to the data here. So let's go ahead and commit this. And then we'll build our SignalStore. And then from our SignalStore, we will, from our SignalStore, we'll start looking at some stuff like mutations and things like that. Oh yeah, we didn't fix up our, let's go ahead and commit that. Let's commit our changes to our to-do list model. And then we also want to compose this. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. Let's cancel that. We definitely didn't want to do that. We instead wanted to do this. Composing commits means that it takes a look at all of our commits and tries to make them, into groups of commit. When we do stuff in the toolkit, we do it based on greater discussions and precedents, but also what we think is needed that would someday be a natural fit with resource. is for sure in NG. Yep. Most resources are not experimental, but for mutations, it is a bit more uncertain thing that we've talked about with the community and a bit with the team about what is sensible. Do not have a set ID yet. Also, I'm trying TanStack's table. We're going to be using TanStack table with SignalStore. With reorders, resizing, yeah, and that's the one thing that I really want to take a look at is being able to sort the table, being able to filter the table, and a bunch of different things based on the state of the store, and being able to provide different sorting options based on the state of the store. So we're definitely going to get into TanStack table. But before we get there, let's build our store. And this is where it becomes kind of a discussion about where to put stores and things like that. Typically, I put the stores closest to where they're going to be used. This time around, I know this store is going to be shared. So we're going to create a new folder. And we're going to call this folder our stores. And inside of our stores, we're going to create a new TypeScript file. And we're going to call this TypeScript file our to-do list store. And so now we need to create a SignalStore. A good mix of signal forms, mutations with resources. I need to watch that Angular error then. I definitely like getting the opportunity to see stuff that Manfred is doing. Very, very cool. So what we want to do here is we want to export our to-do list. And it is going to be a SignalStore, right? And we want, this is going to be a const to-do list equals SignalStore. We need to bring in SignalStore. Import SignalStore from @ngrx signals. Boom. And so now we're going to get some issues here. So the first thing we want to do with our SignalStore is we want to provide a shape of our SignalStore. And this is where we can just give it our to-do list factory. We need to import that. Actually, we need with, what is it? With, man, it's been a while since I've created one of these by hand. What am I missing? It's with state. With state, that's what I want. With state. And we're going to give it our to-do list factory. So there we go. So now our to-do list is a SignalStore that has state. And so now we can start using this. And for those of you guys that don't know, Michael Small has started working with the NGRX team, just helping out there. So stuff he's saying about SignalStore is he knows what he's talking about. He's also started working with like Manfred and the Angular Architect stuff too. So Michael definitely knows this stuff. He probably knows this stuff better than I do. and I rely on him heavily. I admit that fully. He is way better at this stuff than I am at this point in time, and probably is going to continue being because I don't write as much code at work anymore. I'm moving more into an architecture role. So the amount of code I write is yeah, one loading flag hasn't felt great. Oh man, that is a big mistake that a lot of people. Resources gives us granular loading and error handling. Many projects use a single loading flag for all requests, which are awesome. That is like just the fact that you're using a flag for loading because there are different loading states, right? So the is loading true or false is already a bad idea because there are already different loading states. Um, and then once you get to the point where, hey, we want this page to progressively load, and oh yeah, we want to show spinners for each section that's still loading. Um, one is loading flag is a horrible experience. And just from a UX standpoint, right? If I put a giant spinner on a page that's say 80% ready, I just put a giant spinner and make the entire page not usable until everything is loaded. And let's say it takes 5 to 6 seconds for everything to load. And I may be describing a project that I've actually worked on in the past at a previous company. Um, that's a bad experience for users in general. Um, I'm more so official on Toolkit, but I'm just kind of randomly in issues and PR for NGRX proper. Rainer, yeah, Rainer did though become a core member of NGRX, which is um, he well deserved. Rainer has done some amazing stuff. Um, so the most official NGRX thing I do is be Rainer's cheerleader. Dude, being Rainer's cheerleader sounds like an amazing opportunity. Rainer is just a very, very smart guy. All of Manfred's team is just full of, um, Manfred, Rainer, and Michael. And I don't want to start naming teams because I'm going to forget somebody. But there's, it's like Manfred's Angular Architects team is an amazing team. Um, just some very, very cool guys. And if you ever get a chance to talk to anybody from Angular Architects, you should take that opportunity right away. Um, it's going to be well worth your time. Anyway, we've got our to-do list. We've got state, um, and it's very, very simple. So if we go back to, we don't need our star input. We don't need our projected input. We don't need our random number. We'll leave our models up. We eventually need to fix up the README. And eventually we'll get into styles and stuff. But for right now, all we want to do is let's add we'll add another horizontal rule here. And what we want is, I'm adding a whole bunch of white space that we don't need. We want a div here. For right now, it's just going to be a simple ng4. But we need to inject this. So we need a provider here. Let's add our provider array, right? Providers. And we're going to provide our do list. Oh, you know what? Let's name this a store. Let's make sure that this is a store. So we want our to-do list store here, and we're going to bring that in. And then the other thing we want to do is inject our model here. So we want our protected, and let's make this read only. Read only store equals our to-do list, and that's not good. we want to inject our to-do list store. Go ahead and inject this. Come on. There we go. So now we've injected our to-do list store into our component. And so our store is an array, and that's not really what we want. So let's fix this up. We want instead, we want a z.object. And our object is going to have to-dos, and our to-dos go here. Boom. Boom. So now we need to fix this up, which is easy to do. We do that, and then we do to-dos. Boom. There we go. So now our store is still appropriately done, but we can come back up here to our div. And inside of this div, right now we can just do @for and track the to-do bot ID. Store.todos, track by to-do.id, and here, right now, what we'll do is we'll just output to-do with a JSON pipe, and then we'll put a BR on, or actually, let's just do some pre's here. So for now, we're just going to do pre's. So boom. This should render out our to-dos. And there we go. So, you know, we've got the stuff tied to the form. We've got our to-dos here, right? Learn signal forms and all of this stuff. Yeah, so the Angular team announced that signal forms will be experimental in version 21. Michael's 100% correct. It definitely won't be a preview release. It'll definitely be an experimental release. And the difference between preview and experimental is, for the most part, the API is done for preview. For experimental, the API is still up for changing, so they can rename fields and things like that. So yeah, they've been really kicking it into overgear in recent pre-releases, but they said it will surely be experimental still. Yeah, there's still a lot that they want to work on. So we can see that, hey, all of our stuff is looking good. This will eventually become a table, but for right now, it's kind of ugly. Let's give our pre. We'll give it a class equals hover, and we'll do hover bg dash color. We'll go bg primary. We'll give it like a 15%. And so now we can see, hey, and 15's maybe too dark, but it's okay for now. So that works. If we I think we've got it set to dark mode by default. If we the other thing we could do is we could add a click handler. And we can just do handle to do click to do boom, and then down here we need protected handle to do click, and then to do model, and right now we're just going to alert that. So right now we've got the ability to click on it and it's going to alert it. Eventually we're going to handle it. What we want to do is we want to move this form into its own control, so that when we click, we can have a selected item. So we're going incremental with our stuff. So let's also take out let's take out the stuff that the form's bound to. We've already proven that the form works. So there we go. What is going on here? Elements with interaction handlers must be focusable. So this is an ESLint. Click must be accompanied by either key up, key down, or key press event for accessibility. This is good to know. And this is a really good call out. It's not something we're going to fix because it's just temporary. I remember Rayner saying that you can either wait until a new feature is stable and refactor later, or adopt the new API now and update frequently. What do you think? Does it make sense to start using new forms and avoid all the CVAs? Man, that's a good question, Ole. So yeah, it's very much an it depends moment. Yeah, control value accessor. The control value accessor is painful, and signal forms are very powerful. There are, however, some missing features from signal forms and some holes and blind spots. So if you're going to be creating your controls from scratch, from the ground up, and you're going to create everything using signal forms and everything using custom signal, the new signal custom controls, you're probably okay. As soon as you start bringing in libraries that use control value accessor, your signal forms is probably not ready or there yet, and you should be using control value accessor. There's other things to be thinking about too. So if you start using signal forms now, that means every Angular upgrade is important because there might be bugs. But that also means because it's experimental and the API can change, every Angular update could lead to a lot of code churn. There are ways to get around this with, you could use facades, you could use bridge patterns, you could use lots of ways to get around it, right? Um, but it is a lot more engineering that a lot of teams may want to take on for what they're trying to do. So, um, yeah. Oh, and Michael's got some feedback too. The new API now an update is a mentality I will pitch to my team. That's typically the mentality I like too, but I'm very much of the shiny persuasion, right? Oh, shiny new thing. Let's play with it. Um, that tends to ruffle the feathers of people who are more established, um, and you need and conservative, right? And when I say conservative, I'm not meaning the political ideology, but they're the people who like to keep things stable, who are slower to rush into decisions and things like that, versus often like me, ooh, shiny, let's try it, right? Um, and projects to stay healthy need a good mix of both. They need the people who are like, oh, we should do this, but they also need the people who are like, we need to keep things stable. Um, and what that mix winds up being really depends on your team and the dynamic that you're trying to build. But you definitely need that mix. Um, and the conservative people are going to ruffle the feathers of the ooh shiny people, and the ooh shiny people are going to ruffle the feathers of the conservative people, and that's good. You need that tension, um, and as long as the team is healthy and the dynamics are healthy, they're going to respect each other. They're going to get along, but they're always going to be feel strongly one way or the other and ruffle each other's feathers. It's a reality, but it's a healthy reality. Um, and in a lot of stuff we do in engineering, we need to keep a healthy dynamic where we have two opposing forces. If you get one force that's just too strong, your team tends to shoot off in that direction, and that can lead to negative consequences too. Um, yeah, although this is definitely not even existent officially yet, I just assume someday. I could see a reactive forms team using signal forms in place of CVAs, but handle them at the app level as reactive forms. Because if you will do a lot with reactive forms, for example, and then it will be very hard to move to signal forms. And that will be interesting to see when signal forms come out, if there will be generators that will allow you to migrations that will allow you to migrate from signal forms, or from reactive forms to signal forms, or from template forms to signal forms, and things like that. I'd rather have an internal org library learn signal forms than ever be hindered by expecting us to learn. I totally agree with that. CVA has so many, like control value accessors has so many gotchas and pitfalls, that I still make mistakes with them to this day. I've slowly been more conservative with front end stuff so that I do not overwhelm my team with lots of stuff, but to cash in our huge new APIs once they are ready for dev preview. And that's the discussion that we had a while ago, right? Where the more power that you have within your organization, the more conservative you have to be as that organization grows, right? When your decisions only affect you and you personally, be as reckless and crazy as you want. And I highly encourage you to be reckless within your own personal stuff, just because those moments when you break things are some of the best teaching moments you're ever going to have in your career. Um, as your decisions start affecting more than you, um, you need to rein in that desire to chase those shiny things. That desire has the opportunity to affect other people's livelihood, other people's happiness. And you need to be careful as you get more and more responsibility within your organization, as you move to a senior developer level, or even like a staff, or a senior staff, or an architectural or director level type stuff. Your ability to chase shiny things becomes more and more restricted to your personal, um, and the reason for that is just the sheer amount of effect you have with your decisions, and you have to be very, very careful about your decisions. Um, and so, I agree with what you're saying, Michael. That as you're saying as you mature, but it may not even be maturing, but it's as you get more responsibility, um, it becomes way more um, it becomes way more important for you to maintain that stability and rock the boat, so to speak, way less. um, in the Reddit Signal Forms AMA, they mentioned kicking around the idea of a migrator, but only as a theoretical. That would be neat. Maybe we try that. Right. That I agree. It would be cool. um, the reality is, when Signal Forms is released, we're going to have kind of a dichotomy. We're going to have some some template forms if that's what you use, some reactive forms if that's what you use, and then some signal forms. And slowly over time, you're going to start converting your reactive forms and your template forms over to signal forms. Luckily, it's so easy to do, and I imagine it will be even easier in the future because you can use your CVA controls, right? Your control value accessors. And I think that I saw in the latest release notes that control value accessors are starting to show up and mark things as dirty, and they're starting to fix some things with control value accessors. So yeah, I think if you have signals with template driven forms, you could wait. But if your team decide now something big with reactive forms, I would start with signal forms. And that's an interesting take. Um, a very interesting take. And like I said, there are always going to be trade offs, right? Um, but I can't say that I disagree with that take. And if somebody on one of my engineering teams came to me with that proposal, I would back them up on it. If you had to start building complex forms with reactive forms now, I would cry, Ole. I don't do reactive forms as it is. Um, I I drank the Ward Bell Kool Aid back when he was presenting at NG Conf, and when he started the whole reactive versus template forms feud. I really like what Ward showed with template forms, and so I've never really gotten deep into reactive forms. I actually do not like reactive forms, and this is like my hot take for Angular in general. Is reactive forms are something that if you present them to me, I'm going to push back hard because I just do not like them that much. Um, so yeah, I would definitely cry if somebody's like, let's build something big with reactive forms. If I had to maintain it, if they want to maintain it, more power to them, right? If that makes them happy, whatever. But if I have to maintain it, I don't want to deal. But even with our internal lib controls, we tend to handle the reactivity at the top level controls and the app level. And that's the tough thing about like library controls and things, Michael, is if you make the controls too configurable, then you may as well just not create the controls yourselves, right? You're handling the reactivity at such a high level. But if you get too much control, then people don't want to use their controls. They're going to build their own anyway. And so that's always the tough area that libraries have to fill, is like how much is too much control, how much is too little control. And yeah, man, libraries are always difficult. I have a lot of respect for people who successfully build libraries. Um, it's just a very, very difficult thing to do. Um, anyway, you guys sniped me good. Right now, where are we? So we've got our click handler. Um, what we wanted to do was refactor this form um, to only show up if somebody clicks something here and we have a selected. That's what we'll do next time. Um, so next time we will look at we'll refactor this. We will look at having a save and a cancel button here, and not updating the signal store until the save happens. But I definitely need to end today. I've got my mother-in-law coming, and I'm on tech support duty today. So we will, we'll see you guys all later. I'm noticing that my ID is 0 here. We'll fix that next time. Um, but thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for the great discussion. Thank you all for the good questions. We will see you next week when we're going to start digging into some other cool tools. Like, we've done most of our signal form stuff. Now let's go deeper and let's look at the mutations, and let's look at what it means to be immutable. Let's look at what it means to tie a signal form. I really think a signal form is going to tie very, very quickly to a signal store. I haven't done it yet. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty quick and amazing. Marcus, dude, when did you join? How did I miss you, man? Thank you for being here. And thank you guys all for being here. It means a lot that you spend your time with me. And I enjoy doing this. Hopefully it comes across. And I really enjoy all of you being here. Thank you, Michael, for linking Manfred's stuff to me. I'll check that out this week. You guys have a great week. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next week, next Sunday. Until then,